welcome to the Gleaner Podcast for Wednesday, February 21st, 2024. I'm Chantal Hortop, Managing Editor for the Gleaner and host for this season of the podcast. In today's episode, the Gleaner's Sarah Rennie speaks to Jacques Montpetit and Claudie Remillard of the Rodrigue Montpetit et Fils funeral home. After more than 70 years in operation, the funeral home has touched the lives of countless families in the valley. Sarah has provided us with a bit of an introduction to the company's long history. In 1951, Rodrigue Montpetit and his wife, Lucienne Lacroix, left Valleyfield to establish a funeral home in Huntington. They moved into an apartment above the home where they raised their 4 daughters and their son, Jacques. At the time, the area ambulance services were provided by Montpetit as well, and it wasn't long after Jacques' 16th birthday that he found himself behind the wheel on emergency calls. Jacques would go on to become a paramedic, before graduating from the thanatology program at Collège Rosemont and joining his father full-time with the family business. He met his wife, Claudie Remillard, soon after, and she quickly became an integral part of the business. The couple moved into the apartment above the funeral home and raised 3 daughters, while continuing to respond to 911 and ambulance calls, and supporting families through their grief after the loss of a loved one. They insist their job, while difficult at times, is not a sad or somber vocation. In fact, there's a lot of life in their work, and it is this perspective that allows Claudie and Jacques to carry families through difficult moments. Without further ado, I'll turn the floor over to Sarah, Jacques, and Claudie. Happy listening.
There we go. So I'm here with Jacques Montpetit and Claudie Remillard, the Montpetit Funeral Home in Huntington. And we're going to have a quick conversation about the 70-plus year history now of this important business in Huntington. It was started by your father.
My father started the business here in Huntington in 1951. And in the meantime, we had a funeral home. He started a funeral home, and he was working also at a garage, and he was doing part-time each job. And I joined him in 1984 when I finished my course in Rosemont, but I was working with him before that. And my mother always worked with my father. They were both in the business.
And so they started the business in 1951?
Yes.
And they moved here from Valleyfield?
Yes, they moved at this building. They were living upstairs of the funeral home, and we still have that apartment here, and I was born there, and all my sister also were born here.
Wow, so your father was working as an undertaker?
Yeah.
And as an ambulance technician at that time?
Also, yeah, because at that time, the only people who had a station was the funeral director. So, here in Huntington, Valleyfield, even in Waterloo, Belleuil, it was all funeral home who had those stations were able to take people when it was most at that time, it was car accident. So they were able to take people because they had a stretcher and were able to bring the people to the hospital. So that's why a lot of funeral home had the ambulance at the same time.
I think most people don't really realize that connection.
No. And if we remember at that time, there was not many calls like today, because in 1978, I think the government had a new law that over 65 years old, you don't have to pay for the ambulance. But before that, you were paying for everything. Even car accident, there was no SAC at that time. So that's why there was not many. And at that time, people that they were taking the ambulance, it was because they were going to die, because nobody would take the ambulance. Everybody was going by car, and there was not many a call at that time. But today it changed a lot, because you have the car accident, work accident, people older than 65. So a lot goes to the hospital now.
Right. So it was not a good sign then back then if they were calling an ambulance.
No. That's what they were saying. They thought they would die if they call an ambulance. That means because they were desperate to go to the hospital, because people didn't want to go to the hospital at that time.
So individuals didn't call then either. It really was just in extreme emergency.
Exactly, because they couldn't move at home or something like that. Otherwise, no, they were not going at the hospital, or if they were going, they would go by car.
And so you sort of were integrated into that side of the family business first, were you?
Yes, because I started as an ambulance technician first, because at that time it was not a big course. But then in 1978, the government changed the law, and you need like Econoline, big truck, to be able to provide the first care to the people. And you need, I think at that time it was like 200 hours, of course, for ambulance technician. And most of our people took it at Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu. So it was far. It was twice a week. We had to go there and for a few months. Then after that, we were able to work on the ambulance and be a, now they call it paramedic, but at that time they call it ambulance technician.
And so I think in a previous conversation, you had mentioned that you started driving when you were 16.
Yes, because I didn't have the course to be in the back. So I was driving the ambulance and the flasher on and the siren. And yeah. So I start early in that business.
That must have been a lot.
It was a lot. And at that time it was fast. So we
used to call it load and go.
Yeah, load and go. So it was that way. And we would normally bring the people to the Huntington Hospital and then transfer to Montreal. Often it was transferring people to Montreal because it was most, at that time, also car accident.
Wow. That's something to be, introduced to it at 16. But I think you've also mentioned that it was also because the undertakers were physically, but also mentally, psychologically
able to deal with that. Yes, it's true.
Right. It must not have been an easy job.
No.
I don't think it's an easy job today.
No. But when you're born in I could see my father working, and so that's why I decided to do this.
And I mean, you worked full time as a paramedic then.
Yes, for many years until 2009. And
that's when Per Action.
Yeah, Per Action. We sold it to Per Action, yeah. Because
I think you did the both jobs.
Yeah, I was doing funeral home and the paramedic. I love both. To be with the patient, it was a good job. And that's what I liked. But with the government, it's another thing. The administration, it's a lot of paperwork, a lot of, so that's less interested.
And we had scheduled, there were 24 hours per day for 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Then you had a schedule of 7 days, 24 hours break.
Yeah. At the beginning, yeah. I remember at that time in 1978, they were paying us $1 per hour. So for 24 hours, we had $24.
On standby,
waiting for the call. If we had a call, we go, it was $10 or $15 each call. So you could make a living on that. You couldn't. That's why they changed and they put some new schedule, and it was full-time job. So when they decide that, we were 3 full-time job here. It was me, Jean-Paul Parent, and Gaétan Leblanc. Yeah, those were.
And before that, when you were at $1 an hour standby, you had people working all over. It was people were working at Klein & Tinker, the school.
Yeah, it's true. We had that, and when we had a call, we had to call them. Can you come? Mm-hmm. And it was something at that time. It was another. Today you wouldn't accept that, but at that time that was the only way to do it. That was the government, and they don't give much money, so it has to be that way.
And then, so with your mom's encouragement, then your mother's encouragement, you decided to start studying thanatology.
Yes. It was more my mother who says, because I was in college in Valleyfield, and she said, hey, I heard there's a course in Rosemont.
Collège Rosemont.
Yeah, Collège Rosemont, who just started the year before for embalmers. They call it thanatology, but it's, people know it as an embalming. So it's embalmer. So I sent my paper and I was accepted. So I went and I did my 3 years course. And then after that, I came back to work with my parents. I wanted to go to the university for other thing. And when I started to work, I never went back to school. I said no. They needed me also, and
you liked it.
Yeah, and I liked it what I was doing.
And so then you started to work with your father.
Yes, and since then I never stopped.
Full time.
Yeah,
And it was full time.
yeah, full time
Ambulance and funeral home.
Yeah, funeral home.
It must have been so busy.
It was always like two businesses, 24 hours a day. So it's a lot. And being on call on the ambulance, that's something too, because at the middle of the night, you have to be ready. Car accident, whatever it is, heart attack. So it could be your neighbor beside your house. So when you receive the call, you have to wake up, dress, and be ready to go. So the way we were doing things, we were always saying it's going to be the worst case in the world. So you get prepared in your head to be the hardest one. So when you go and it's not that bad, it's a lot easier. But at least you're prepared when you go. So that's the way we took it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was a big territory.
Yeah.
It included Saint-Barbe,
Dundee, Saint-Anisette, Dundee, Elgin, Gun Manchester, Hinchingbrook,
Saint-Barbe.
Barbe.
And also you had the morgue.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there was a coroner. The coroner was George Lefebvre, Dr. George Lefebvre, and he was the coroner in this area. And when the police came and at the beginning for the ambulance, what they asked, they asked the Sûreté du Québec, who's giving the best service in ambulance and for morgue? And they said it was us. So they gave us the morgue in Huntington and the ambulance service to continue the permit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's how it worked.
So very, very busy.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And at 23, very, very busy. Somehow you two managed to actually meet.
Yeah, we met in 1984.
Yeah, in 84, just when I finished my course in Rosemont, and she was following her course in Montreal
in tourism
at l'Institut Touriste
Hôtellerie
du Québec, and I met her at the Chateau
at the Cul-de-Sac.
Cul-de-Sac. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you ever heard about that. There was a bar.
Okay.
Downstairs. Owned
the
by Ricky Renault and Gardner.
Gardner, yeah. Gardner. And that's why we met, and we started to go out together and
got married in 1991. And worked together since 1989.
Yeah. Because
a little bit before, but
Claudie worked at the bank in
CIBC
in Huntington.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had a lot of jobs, so I asked her, "Would you like to come and work for us?" And she said yes.
I even followed my course of ambulance technician in 1989 because we were missing employees, and he said we have to have more people available. So I had to follow my course, which wasn't my first choice, but did it and work a little bit on the ambulance together.
Yeah. So at least if there was something, at least we could go together. Yeah.
And you lived here as well in the funeral home.
Yes. First, my parents, I was upstairs. Then, when we built a garage on the just beside our building for the ambulance, and I had my apartment there. So I was living there, and Claudie came live with me in 1985, 86.
89.
89? Oh, 89. Okay.
Oh, 86 maybe?
86, yeah, I think it's 86. And so we lived in that apartment, and we didn't have any children. So, and it was not in our plan. So my parents was living upstairs, and we were living downstairs. But in 1988, we decided to have children, and we asked my parents if you want to switch. They go down, so don't have to go up the stairs, because my parents, they were getting old. And that's what we did. We transfer.
And you wound up having
three girls, Mathilde, Flavie, and Odile.
Yeah.
But a lot of transformation were done between 84 and today.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
1994, 1992, we did The Office.
Yeah. In 94, we redone all the funeral home because I was in business with my father, and I bought the business, I think, in 94. So I redone all the funeral inside.
We even built behind on
Yeah.
Hunter Street.
Yeah, that was not there, and we built to the street, and that was in 1994. And in 1996, we built in Saint Anisette a funeral home. And in 2001, we bought Kelly Funeral Home from
2002.
2002. Okay, and since then we've been
And Children in 2000.
yeah children 2000 yeah
All the ambulance service in 2009.
9 yeah because that was too much now.
The children took place.
Yeah.
It was
family.
mainly the reason too.
Yeah, the family. Yeah, because otherwise you work, and
I was going to say, if you're on call 24 hours for 2 different jobs,
yeah,
raising young kids must have been a challenge.
yeah, it was a challenge.
It was all right when we were only 2 adults, but once with the kids, it was it was starting to be heavy.
Yeah,
And we got older too.
yeah, and the school, they go to the arena and the ballet, and you want to be with them too. So
Yeah, I mean, Claudie, you've mentioned to me before that there's a lot of life behind this job.
Yes, there is.
And I love that way of thinking about it. It's just beautiful. And then you would never know, looking at what you've built, that, 2 families, 2 generations were raised in these buildings. There must be just incredible memories.
There is a lot of memories. Having the grandparents living in the same building as us, the children. We were living upstairs at that time, and Jacques' parents were living in the apartment just beside, and we had a direct connection from our apartment to their apartment by going by the funeral home. So the children would come downstairs, take their bicycle, and sometimes there were bodies in their casket. So the girls were taught to be very, very respectful. So they would stop, put their little bicycle beside. They would just go and see and say, "Oh, it's a madame. Oh, it's a monsieur. Shh." And they would take their bike and go to see their grandparents. And they always said that living all in the same house, Monsieur and Madame Montpetit probably had more years to live because they had the children with them.
And they died at 92 years, both of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Still living at the apartment.
Yeah. And the children played downstairs. Of course, when nobody was here, but they played hide and seek. They slept in the funeral home. Some of their friends wouldn't want to come because they were scared to come in a house where there was a funeral home downstairs. So the children, some of them wouldn't come. And then by teaching them that was all right, and it was a place where people gathered to share memories, they weren't so frightened after. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I think that's also this idea. There's a lot of life behind this job. I think that's also, my family has worked with you. Everybody's families almost in Huntingdon have worked with you. I think that must be part of how you manage this kind of work.
Yeah. It's because we're trying to help them to go through that
Difficult
passage.
period.
Yeah. And I think we're trying our best. And when you put your heart in it and you do your best, I think it helped them. And that's what we like. It's when people say, thank you a lot for helping us to go through it, because there's a lot of paperwork, and also they don't know how to manage in this situation. And we understand that. We went through that too personally. So we know how to deal with that. So
there's a trust also that people have in us. We know a lot of them. If we don't know personally, the person will know a neighbor, a cousin, a friend. So it's a big family, and we are here to help.
yeah.
And we really work with our hearts.
Yeah.
We're we love life and we love people. So I think we
treat people like we would like to be treated. So that's, and no matter if they have money, no money, it's not an issue. It's to help them. And sometimes people who have more problem than others, it's I would say we like to help them because they need it the most.
We can find clothes sometime. We can wash clothes for them. We'll go over, not strictly business. It's like personal little things that people need. And we will meet them again. And we hear a lot of secrets also. When you're one-to-one and people are sad, and
often they say, I don't know why I'm saying that to you, but and everything they say stay here. So, but we're listening to them, and sometimes that's what they need the most.
I would imagine most people don't realize that is a large part of what you're doing is
listening.
Yes,
and we follow. We won't go too fast. If they want to talk, we stopped. We really take the time they need.
And what people like also probably is they go back home and they say, oh, I forgot this, I forgot that. But they know they can come back, and sometimes they just ring the bell and say, I forgot, come on in. And we're going to explain to them again. And and they know where we are. So it's very easy. So
they give it back because often there's a big hug at the end. We give and we receive.
Yes.
Whereas there's a lot of sharing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It must also be, sometimes it must be a bit of a difficult job.
Yes. It is.
Yeah.
It is sometimes. It's not easy. No. But we try. And sometimes
there's times that are harder. A lot harder. I remember once I was very pregnant, and I had a couple that came and they just lost their baby. And I remember I was sucking my stomach, and I was just sucking it, and not to have my happiness and their sadness.
Yeah,
so cancers at young age too.
Yeah.
We had a young teenager.
Yeah, it was young.
He was about 14 years old, and he had treatments, and he decided to stop the treatments. And he had a marble for each treatment he received. So the mother asked if she could have the string with the marbles, and we said, of course, but we thought it would be a small string, but the string went all over the parlor. That was like remarkable, saying, oh, it wasn't a week of treatment. It was years.
It was something. That was hard.
So that was,
because I knew she came, I think, before, and I went home to pick up the kids, and that was very hard. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were answering the phone 24 hours, 7 days a week. We couldn't go and bring the trash can at the street, not hearing the phone, or going to your bathtub, or we were always, where's the phone? Okay, there's a phone in this corner. Okay. And there's a phone in the garage. Everywhere. There were phones everywhere.
And you have to leave the garage door open to hear the
run phone again fast enough to get.
So people at that time, they had to dial for, it was no 50, but it was 264-5021.
And then the 911 came in. Oh my God.
After, because we had the 264-5331, and we had two lines. And then after that, we had the 911. But for many years, we had two lines at home. So to make sure if someone called and there's another call, we had to put it on hold and take the others.
So that was until 1994?
Or 95, yeah, because before that, it was always my mother who answered the phone, and my father.
We had a babysitter for the line.
Yeah.
because we might have a wedding or something. So we had to hire a babysitter
For the phone.
For the phone.
Just for the phone. Answering the phone, taking the address, and send the boys technician on call.
There's a lot going on behind the line. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And I imagine calls come in still at all times. And I've heard that you've been known even to come downstairs or to come in the middle of the night to meet with people. And
Yes. People coming from the hospital because his wife died and stop at the office, ring the doorbell, go down in my pajama and say, okay, have a seat. I'll be right back with you. And
Because often they don't know, they're desperate that they leave the hospital. And
at that time, people didn't call. They were coming. They were ringing at the door at that time. Yeah.
But still today.
We still have some, but most of them are calling. But at that time, no.
They would stop by.
Yeah.
wow, so it was even more important than that you were
To be there.
for them.
Yeah.
Yes.
And of course, both of you are also known outside the community, but you were known within the community as well, outside of the funeral home.
Mm-hmm.
How important has it been for you to also sort of take on roles? I know you've been a hockey coach forever. And
Yes. I've been helping the coach at hockey, and I play hockey in a league. And I was even responsible for a tennis league back in 1980. 80 or 90, yeah. We had a league. Dr. Hubert was playing, Serge Durand, and we were about 20 people playing tennis. So I was in charge of that and hockey too. So, and I was member of the Optimist Club for many years. And that was our way to pay back to the community.
And of course, Claudie, you've been involved with the Hospital Foundation, the Huntingdon County. And
Yes, I worked at the little green library with Mrs. Ola Proudfoot. She taught me. We worked on Friday nights here on Hunter Street. Mm-hmm. We had a great time. Worked on the pool to save the pool. Worked on the park, Prince Arthur Park. Did it quite, because it's important. Yeah, we like it a lot.
And then you've mentioned some of the changes to the funeral home over the years, but I imagine the pandemic was the biggest, or certainly the most immediate changes.
Yes.
And that was quick. It was desperate.
Yeah, it was hard on families.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were not allowed to have a lot of people at the parlor at the same time. And so it was very hard for them. For us too.
People were angry also.
Oh, yeah.
They were upset. They were sad.
Why? And
we had one of the first case in April 2020. It was a case from the L'Art des Ormeaux that time.
Yeah.
And family didn't understand, and people would die. They couldn't see, the family couldn't see them. You couldn't embalm.
No, we were about the only province who couldn't embalm them. And now we can. If you die of COVID, we'll do the embalming if you want to be exposed. And but at that time, the government says no. And that was hard because people, they didn't see often their father or their husband, and that was it.
Going to the cemetery all by themselves. Visitation was limited
By 25
at 10 at one point. So to select who would come, it was it was
not
hard.
It was hard for them, and it was hard for us too.
But it's like many years ago in the 1990s with AIDS.
People didn't want to do the embalming on people who died of AIDS. And today we do, because we don't know. First, we don't know if someone has AIDS, and sometimes people don't even know themselves. And so that's why you always protect yourself and you do it. So, but at that time it was new. It was in 1984, and it was something too. Yeah.
I imagine. Yeah. We don't think about, most of us have only now ever lived through one public health crisis. So it's not something we think of, but certainly you must have had to do work even within the office just to be able to accommodate
Yeah, we had to meet the people somewhere else. And then the office, we had to redo the installation, all the protection. We had to take names.
Yes, it was.
We had kept them for the government. So everything was.
We need the names and the phone number of people in case there was something.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, it was, I don't want to go through that again. And especially for families, it was terrible.
It was sad.
Yeah.
It was very sad.
Now that all of the public health measures have been lifted and you've had a little bit of time to sort of think back on it, is there anything that has remained or that you've kept? Was there anything that came out of the pandemic that was not a silver lining, but
No. I think people appreciate more coming, take time to meet. I think a family is more important now. They realize that when we're free to choose to come or not to come, and now they realize that when you are kept not to come, imposed to not to certain things, I think now they realize that we have to take moments and family. I think family is more.
It's important.
It's important.
Yeah. And it's important to see your friends at that
moment.
In that moment.
Yeah.
So it help you to go through.
Yeah.
So you've noticed then that there is a bit of a change?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people realize that people being together we're lucky. Yeah. And people are important to each other for support.
Yeah.
Right.
Support. Yeah.
Because a lot of people would say, I would go, but I can't. And so it's hard for.
And you need the support
on
of
both sides.
helping.
And I imagine also one of the things that people talked about during the pandemic was closure and just that you couldn't get that.
You couldn't get closure.
Yeah.
No, which is very important.
Yeah.
Very important. Yes. And we realize with the doctor saying that the closure is very important.
Yeah.
You need to exchange the good memories and
take the time.
Take the time.
Whatever you want to do something. If it's private, okay, but at least you have to do something. Some people try to push that and say, no, I don't want to cry. No, that's not the way you're going to go through it. If you don't do it, don't live it now. You will live it in 6 months, a year, or 2 years from here. And you'll say, yeah, I should have.
And so, I mean, you haven't been involved for 70 years, but after 70 years, what do you think is the most rewarding part of your job?
I think it's helping people to go through through this, because a lot of people come here, they come backward because they're afraid. And once they're finished, they say, oh, it went a lot easier than I thought it would. So, but that's our job to make it easier on them. And that's why we try to feel them comfortable and explain and take the time. And often it's the way we talk. So, and that's what, and then even like prearranged funeral, people do that. And a lot say, oh, I want to do it for 10 years, but I was not able to come and I was afraid. And when they come, and it's like taking out of weight from their shoulder. And they say, yeah, it went well. And now I know where I'm going, and it's a lot easier for them.
And I think then if there's one thing I think that maybe describes the two of you, again, it's that idea that you don't celebrate the death of an individual here.
Yeah. We're celebrating the life of the person who it's a life, eh? When you look at it, then someone 80 years old died, they went through a lot. And today what we see often, they're going to bring pictures, they're going to do video, and you want to see the life that they lived. So that's very important to remember.
The exchange.
Yeah.
And see the generation of the family. When you see how many people, the family they brought, this is wonderful. You can see that, and they share moments. And, they go back on the page of a life.
In life, sometimes you have to stop and realize and live the moment, because we're all living in a speed.
High speed.
Yeah. So that's why sometimes you have to.
Take a moment. When somebody passes away, take the moment. We all have a busy schedule. And sometimes people will say, well, I don't know if they're going to come or if, and finally they do come because it's important. Just stop and we have to take the time of sharing and bringing some help to the person that lose a loved one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what makes people, it's easy on them, that is see that people, when they come to the parlor, sometimes they don't expect someone to come, and he comes. It happened to me when my mother died and my father, and they were coming from Saint-Hyacinthe, Belleuil, and you made all that trip for me to come. Wow. And it's very important.
That support is good.
Yeah.
No, it's really an incredible history, and just the changes are hard to imagine, and the evolution as well is really hard to sort of wrap your head around. Even that you were doing 911 calls, ambulance calls, and taking care of people the way you do.
Yeah.
You're quite the amazing couple.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And
working together. That's a lot of people say they wouldn't work with their wife or their husband, and we've been doing that for many, many years.
Well, this has been a really fascinating time getting to chat with you about this, and thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Today's interview has shown us, yet again, what fascinating stories the residents of the Valley have to tell. And, as always, we're so happy to be able to share these stories of our neighbours with all of you. Be sure to tune in again next Wednesday, February 28th, for the final episode of this season of the Gleaner Podcast. Next week, the Gleaner's Callan Forresto will bring us an interview looking at the tradition of Irish music in the Valley. This podcast is made possible in part by funding from the Government of Canada through the Official Language Community Media Consortium, as well as a grant from the Bourse d'Initiative en Entrepreneuriat Collectif, a call for projects designed to support the creation and development of social economy enterprises and projects across the Montérégie region. Sound editing and sound design for the Gleaner Podcast is done by Stacey Pennington. Our theme music is by Christopher Pennington. It is produced by me, Chantal Hortog. Don't forget to subscribe to the Gleaner Podcast on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss an episode. For more Gleaner content, check out our website at www.the-gleaner.com. I'll also put that link in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you'll join us again next time.